Welcome, dear listeners. She now. Take a slow breath in through your nose and let it out gently through your mouth. Feel the air around you soften as it settles. Imagine a flickering candlelight nearby. The soft warmth of its glow painting golden patterns across the floor. A gentle breeze stirs the curtains ever so slightly far away. You might hear the hush of leaves rustling in the moonlight. You're safe here, held quiet, calm. Let your body feel heavy and relaxed. Let your shoulders drop, your jaw unclench, and your thoughts begin to float like feathers in the night. You're drifting now into the soft folds of a different time, into the dust and firelight of a world long past. Our story today begins at the edge of a gray stone village, a place hidden beneath the misted hills of early medieval Europe. It is morning, barely so. The sun is a dull smear against the clouds. The earth is still cold from the night, and within the crooked, cobbled lanes of this village, something stirs. A man named Elias rises before the bells. His chamber is little more than a stone box with straw in the corners and a hearth that never seems to burn warm enough. He sits up slowly on his stiff cot, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. Though sleep has never come easily for him, for Elias is the village's appointed torturer, and even in dreams. The cries linger, the hearth beside him cracks as he stokes it with a blackened stick. The coals mutter, the smoke curls up the chimney like a lazy ghost. He washes his face in a basin of cold water, the chill biting his skin. His eyes, hollow with shadows, stare back at him from the surface, and today, like so many others, will not be kind outside. The wind sighs, a raven croaks from the beam of an old gallows. The cobbles are slick with morning dew, and the people in the street avoid his eyes. He walks the path alone, his boots slap against the stone. A young boy peeks out from behind his mother's skirt, but she quickly turns the child's face away, as if by looking at him, something might seep into their bones. Elias reaches the stone steps of the keep. The door groans on its hinges as he enters. It always smells the same in here: mildew, oil, old sweat, and something else that clings to the cracks in the stone. The scent of pain. He lights a torch from the brazier. Its flame dances wildly. His hands are calloused from years of rough work. Not farming, not carpentry, but binding wrists, tightening ropes, and listening for confessions. He never wanted this life. Long ago, he had apprenticed as a scribe. But a war took his teacher, and poverty brought him to the service of the Lord, who ruled this land. And when the last torturer died from infection, Elias was chosen not for any cruelty, but because he had no family to object, and he did not protest. The dungeon lies beneath the keep, a narrow stairway spiraling downward into the damp dark. Each step creaks, each breath echoes, the torch flame flickers on the walls, carving shadows like clawed hands. Elias does not hurry. He never does. The condemned will wait, they always do. He reaches the chamber, iron instruments gleam dully in the light. The rack stands in one corner. The vice in another. There are ropes. Thumb screws the wheel, all too familiar. He sets down the torch in a sconce and sits on the low bench. Against the wall, he closes his eyes for a moment and listens. The chamber has its own rhythm, the drip of moisture from the ceiling, the distant scurry of rats, the heartbeat of stone. He does not enjoy what he does. He never has. But he tells himself, this is duty, that someone must do it, and that he is already too stained to stop. They bring the prisoner down around mid-morning. A gaunt man wrapped in a tattered cloak, accused of heresy. The bishop says he must confess. Elias says nothing. The guards bind the man to the chair leather straps across his wrists. Across his ankles, his breathing is fast, his eyes wild. Elias kneels before him. He does not speak, yet he simply looks and waits. That is part of it, the silence. He lays out the tools with care, as if they were brushes on a painter's table, each one with a purpose, a history, a weight. The condemned man whimpers, begging softly for mercy. But Elias has heard this all before, from men, from children. Once his hands coils. The first question is asked by the bishop standing behind the door. A voice that does not like to be close. A voice wrapped in robes and righteousness. Elias begins his work. Outside, the sun rises higher. The village bustles with daily life. Bakers call to their flocks. Children chase hoops down alleys, and no one speaks of what happens beneath the keep. Only the wind seems to carry the echoes, whispers slipping through the cracks, soft and thin as breath. And when Elias finishes, he does not stay to watch the man taken away. He returns to his bench, washes his hands in the basin, and waits for the next name. And still the fire burns low. The breeze murmurs through the grates, and the silence returns. He hates this life, but he tells himself it is survival, that no one else will do it, that someone must be the hand of the law, even if it means he never sleeps without dreaming of screams. And in his small chamber that night, with the hearth flickering low, and the straw rustling like dry leaves, he closes his eyes and wonders what his name might have been had things been different, had he not been chosen, had he not obeyed. Morning fades slowly into afternoon. A dim, gray hush settles over the village like a worn wool cloak. Even the sun seems reluctant to touch this place. The market hums on the outskirts, filled with voices and barter. But at the center of it all. At the spine of the village, the keep broods silently. Elias walks the stone halls with practiced slowness. His feet know the path. Past the kitchen doors, where servants pause in silence as he passes past the chapel, where even the priest avoids his gaze, past the Lord's rooms, where whispers are spoken behind heavy oak. He is both needed and unloved, feared, misunderstood. His coin comes from the crown, but his hunger gnaws like anyone else's, and his sleeps, such little sleep, offers no comfort. He makes his way toward the storeroom near the dungeon stairs, a place few enter here. The tools must be kept in order. Iron must be oiled, bindings inspected. The weight of his work is not just the cries, not just the stares, but the upkeep pain is its own machinery, and Elias is the reluctant mechanic. The air here is cooler, more still. Dust floats in shafts of light that barely reach the floor. He opens a small wooden box and lifts a cloth to reveal a set of iron thumbscrews. He runs a cloth over them, slowly, gently, not out of care for the tool, but because it steadies his hands. He remembers the first time he held one, how it felt too heavy for such a small device, how it could break a person so easily now. He barely notices the weight, and that, more than anything, terrifies him. In the evening, he is called to the main hall. The Lord sits in his high chair, draped with furs, his beard full of crumbs, his voice dry and flat. He speaks not of justice, but of whispers from a neighboring village, a woman accused of cursing crops and spoiling milk, which they call her, though she's not yet been tried. She'll be brought here, and Elias is to prepare. The Lord's eyes do not meet his. He speaks as though Elias were a tool, himself an extension of the chain and instrument. Not a man, Elias bows without of respect, but out of habit that night. He walks back through the town square, past the small chapel, past the baker's empty stall. He stops at the well and draws water. The rope creaks softly. He sees a girl nearby, maybe 9 years old. She's barefoot. Her hands clutch a small wooden doll. She sees him too, and for a moment she does not look away. Her eyes are wide, curious, not fearful. Not yet. He nods once she blinks, and then her mother calls from the door of their hut. The girl runs, and the moment is gone. He wonders how long until she's told to avoid him too. How long before even the children cross the road at his passing. The stars are hidden tonight. Clouds drape the sky in woolen gray, and the wind carries the chill of things to come back in his room. Elias sits before the hearth. The fire is low. He doesn't feed it, just watches as it sinks into embers. He opens a small wooden box beside his cot. Inside are papers, old curled, one carefully. It's a letter from long ago, from his sister before the war. Before she vanished into the chaos, she had begged him not to stay in this village, told him to find her in the south, to take up a life with books again, to leave the blood behind. But the letter arrived too late. By then, he had already been bound to this path. He closes the box and rests his hands in his lap. The heat from the dying fire brushes his knuckles, and outside the wind murmurs through the cracks in the stone. The next morning comes with rain, soft at first, then steady, like the sky weeping without sound. Elias walks to the chapel. A strange pull brings him there. He does not pray, not anymore, but he listens. The priest is lighting candles along the altar. He sees Elias, and for once does not flinch storms coming. The priest says, voice quiet, measured. Elias nods, says nothing. The priest continues lighting the candles. The scent of wax and incense fills the room. It clings to the air like memory. You do not have to be what they say you are. The priest murmurs, not unkindly, not boldly. Either Elias watches the flames, they flicker, waver, like thoughts on the edge of sleep. I don't know what I am anymore. He whispers, and then he leaves. In the dungeon that afternoon, he prepares the room. The woman has not yet arrived, but she will soon. He lights the braziers, checks the bindings. There's a stillness here, too deep for comfort, like the breath held before a scream. He pauses at the rack. His fingers brush the wood, the grooves, the scratches. He thinks of all the names that were never recorded, all the ones who didn't survive the chamber, who didn't get a marker in the ground. And for a moment, just a moment, he wonders what it would be like to never come back here again, to walk away, to disappear, to become someone else. But then the heavy door groans open and footsteps echo down the stair, and he turns, and the work begins again. The woman is thin, wrapped in wet wool. Her hands are bound in front of her with scratchy rope. Her eyes scan the walls of the dungeon as though looking for a way out through the cracks. She says nothing, even when the guards push her forward. Elias studies her, not with cruelty, but with an old ache. This is always the moment he dreads the most, the quiet before anything happens, the moment when both of them still have the chance to pretend they are elsewhere. He gestures gently toward the stool. The guards shove her into it anyway. Her lip cracks against her tooth, a thin line of blood. He frowns, but says nothing. The guards await a nod from him. Before they leave, he gives it slowly, and the door slams shut behind them, leaving only silence and the sound of rain against the stones above. He pulls a small stool, near sits across from her, close enough to see the threads in her cloak, far enough not to threaten. What's your name? He asks softly, like he's offering her tea. Instead of torment, she doesn't answer. She stares at him, not fearful, but angry. You don't have to speak yet. He says, I just need you to listen. He lights another torch. The flame flutters the room, brightens only slightly. I am not here to judge you, he continues. They already did that. I am only the hand that moves when they command it. Still, nothing. She turns her head away. Elias exhales. He's not angry. Either he understands. He picks up a piece of cloth and slowly wipes the surface of the surface and slowly wipes the surface of the thumbscrews. Not because they need cleaning, but because it gives his hands something to do. The air between them thickens, not with fear, but with the terrible stillness of waiting. She shifts on the stool. The rope squeaks where it pulls against itself. Her voice, finally, breaks the quiet. Do you ever wonder if this is all there is? Her question surprises him. Not the words, but the calm in them. He turns toward her. Her eyes lock on his. All this pain. She says, this suffering, is this the shape of the world now? A place where one person twists another until they forget who they were. He doesn't answer right away. He looks down at the iron in his hand, then places it gently back on the table. I used to wonder. He says, now I try not to think at all. That's worse. She says, you've killed the part of you that knew better. He flinches, not visibly, but inside, where the last warm parts of him still hide. I didn't choose this. He says the words, quieter than the wind outside. No, she says. But you stayed. They sit in silence. Again, he watches her and wonders what they would have said to each other in another world. Maybe over a loaf of bread at the edge of a village. Maybe while drawing water from the same well. But not here. Not like this. He opens the record book on the small table. Its pages are yellowed and brittle. He flips to today's entry, a blank space waiting to be filled. He lifts the quill, dips it in ink, writes the date, and then stops. She is watching him, still, her mouth set firm, her hands still bound, her posture still proud. You don't believe you're a witch, do you? He asks. She laughs, once mowed. It mowed, when mowed. We, weed, we be, we may, you, we, you, da, we, you, be, you, do, you, it can you to you at you to you so yes to then at this I believe I'm a woman who told the wrong man. No. He nods. He's heard that before more times than he can count. He closes the book without writing her name. Then he stands, walks to the door, and leans his head against the wood he could call the guards. Begin the formal routine. He could make her scream. make her beg, break her bones for the satisfaction of men with too much power and too little shame. But something in him refuses. He turns back. She's still sitting. But there's something different in her eyes now, a softness. Not for him, but for the quiet between them. I can't let you go. He says, voice tight, but I can give you time. She nods once, just once, and he leaves the room, the door groaning behind him, sealing the silence within, outside. The rain is falling harder now, pooling in the stones. The gutters overflow. The villagers rush from stall to home beneath cloaks and sackcloth. And Elias stands in the doorway of the keep, letting the rain soak him, as if it might wash away more than just mud later that night. When the fires are low and the halls are quiet, he returns to the dungeon alone. The priest has gone to sleep. He unlocks the door and steps inside. The woman is still there, still bound, but her head lifts when he enters. He kneels beside her and unties the ropes. Her hands are red and raw. She doesn't move at first, just rubs her wrists gently. Go. He says he doesn't know why, but the word slips out like breath. She watches him a long moment, then nods and slips out into the dark. He sits alone in the silence. And when the guards find the empty stool the next morning, they will blame him. Of course they will, but he doesn't care. Because, for once, he did not obey. And that is something. Word spreads quickly in a small village. Whispers carry like smoke on the wind by dawn. The woman is gone. No one knows where she fled, or if she escaped at all, but in the keep. There is a ripple of unease. Elias returns to his small chamber. The cold stone walls press in around him. The quiet is different now, less oppressive, more fragile, as if the air itself holds its breath. He sits beside the hearth, the embers flickering weakly. His hands cradle a cup of watered wine. The taste is bitter, but it steadies him outside. A breeze stirs the curtains. Again, the scent of rain lingers. Damp and clean, he closes his eyes and listens to the soft rustling of the leaves, to the distant calls of night birds, to the steady beating of his own heart. In this moment, the weight of his role feels almost unbearable, not because of the acts themselves, but because of what they have done to him. How the coldness has crept in like frost beneath his skin. He thinks back to the faces he has seen, the broken men and women, the children who cried out in confusion, the accused who begged for mercy, and the ones who met death silently, eyes empty. Sometimes he wonders if the darkness will consume him completely, if there will be anything left of Elias when the day comes to an end. But then, a quiet voice inside him speaks a small spark in the dark, reminding him that he is still here, still breathing, still human, the next morning. The Lord summons him again, this time with a different charge. A young man accused of theft, a petty crime in many eyes. But in this harsh land, punishment is swift and unforgiving. Elias prepares the chamber once more. The tools gleam cold and unyielding, but his hands tremble slightly, a rare falter in his practiced routine. When the prisoner arrives, Elias studies him carefully. The boy is barely older than the one who had looked at him without fear. His eyes are wide with terror. His voice shakes as he pleads for mercy. Elias kneels beside him and speaks softly. "I do not wish to harm you, but I must do my duty." The boy nods. Tears slipping down his cheeks, Elias works quickly, administering only what is necessary to extract the truth. Afterward, he tends to the boy's wounds as best he can, using cloth soaked in herbal poultices, a small mercy in a world so cruel. As the days pass, Elias finds himself questioning more and more the system he serves, the lives he enforces, the lives he takes part in ending one evening. The priest visits him. Their conversation is quiet and filled with unspoken understanding. "You carry a heavy burden," the priest says, "but you are not alone." Elias nods, grateful for the company in the dark together. They share a moment of peace, a fragile light amidst the shadows, and so the nights continue, the fires flicker and fade. The wind whispers through the trees, and Elias, the man who never chose his fate, begins to dream of a different life, one where kindness outweighs cruelty, where mercy is not a forgotten word, and where he can finally find rest. Days blur like rain on stone. The keep breathes with quiet urgency. Elias moves through the halls, each step a slow echo. His mind is a tangle of weariness and whispered regrets. He cannot forget the faces, nor the silence that follows each sentence carried out. He hands Elias a folded parchment sealed with the Lord's mark. The letter commands him to travel to a neighboring town, a place rife with unrest and whispers of rebellion. The journey is long and treacherous, through tangled forests where the branches claw at his cloak, across muddy paths slick with recent rain, and over hills that roll beneath heavy gray skies. At night, Elias rests beneath a canopy of cold stars. The fire he lights sputters against the damp air. He listens to the soft chorus of night creatures. Their calls a gentle counterpoint to his restless thoughts when he arrives in the town. The air is thick with tension. People glance nervously from shadowed doorways. Children hide behind skirts, and the marketplace is eerily silent. Elias is led to a small, dark chamber beneath the town hall here. The prisoners are kept, their whispered fears lingering in the damp stone. Among them is a young woman, accused of spreading seditious words. She meets Elias's gaze steadily, not with defiance, but with a quiet sorrow over days. Elias prepares for what is to come, but he finds himself hesitating. Each tool in his hands feels heavier. Each breath he draws more burdened. One evening, the woman speaks softly. "Is this your fate, too?" She asks to be bound by chains, not your own. He does not answer immediately. The question lingers, unfolding like a shadow across his heart. "I never wanted this." He finally admits, "My hands are forced, but my mind remembers what it means to care." She nods, a fragile understanding passing between them. The nights grow colder. The fire's glow flickers uncertainly, and Elias's resolve begins to waver. He wonders if there is a way out, a path beyond these walls of stone and sorrow, a life where the past does not define him, but morning comes. As always, and with it, the weight of duty returns. The crowd gathers outside the hall, their faces expectant and unforgiving. Elias steels himself, not with certainty, but with the quiet hope that maybe, somehow, he can endure. And as the sun sets once more, the winds carry the sound of rustling leaves and whispered prayers, wrapping the world in a gentle embrace. As Elias continues his reluctant vigil, haunted by the question of who he might have been, if only he had chosen differently. The days in a neighboring town stretch long and gray. Elias walks the cobbled streets with a weight heavier than his pack. His eyes trace the worn faces of townsfolk, tired and weary. Their whispered prayers for peace seem to slip away with the wind at the keep's stone chamber. Preparations continue. The woman accused waits silently, her spirit unbroken despite the fear. Elias moves among his tools with mechanical care, each piece gleaming cold in the flickering torchlight. He pauses before the Iron Maiden, a cruel contraption of spikes and hinges. Its very presence feels like a shadow over his soul. He runs his fingers lightly along its worn edges, feeling the cold bite beneath the surface at night. Elias dreams of light, a place where laughter fills the air, where the trees sway gently in the sun, where no chains bind the hands of man or woman. But morning brings the weight of reality once more. The Lord demands swift justice. The crowd gathers in the square, their faces hard and unforgiving. Elias steels himself for the day ahead, but inside, a storm brews a question growing louder than the jeers of the crowd. Is there a way to hold on to mercy in a world ruled by fear and pain? He recalls the words of the priest, "You carry a heavy burden, but you are not alone," and wonders if that is enough, or if he must find a new path before the darkness consumes him entirely. In the quiet moments before the woman is brought forward, he closes his eyes and breathes deeply, listening to the distant rustle of leaves, the soft murmur of the wind, the crackling hearth beyond the stone walls. And he makes a promise to himself, a promise to remember who he was before the weight of the iron and chains, a promise to find a spark of light, no matter how small, to hold on to humanity even in the darkest of places. The door opens, and the story continues, wrapped in shadow and hope, in pain and the quiet strength that grows between. The sun begins to dip low behind the hills as Elias prepares himself. The stone walls of the keep seem to close in tighter with every passing hour. He watches the woman brought before him again, her eyes steady and unyielding. There is no fear now, only a calm acceptance, a silent courage that pierces through the darkness surrounding them. The crowd murmurs beyond the heavy wooden door, a restless tide of expectation and judgment. Elias breathes slowly, grounding himself in the moment, his hands steady despite the storm of thoughts within. He moves with practiced care, not to inflict pain, but to fulfill a duty. He despises the tools gleam in the flickering torchlight. Cruel and unfeeling, he imagines each one softened by the warmth of a summer breeze. Each iron chain replaced with ribbons of silk, the dungeon transformed into a garden bathed in sunlight. He pauses, looking into the woman's eyes once more, and for a moment, the weight of the world lifts. A quiet understanding passes between them, two souls trapped in different cages, both yearning for freedom outside. The wind picks up, carrying with it the scent of rain and earth. The rustling of leaves creates a soothing melody. The crackling of the hearth inside hums like a lullaby, and Elias feels the smallest flicker of hope, a light to hold on to in the deepening dusk as the minutes stretch and time seems to slow. He wonders if mercy can survive in this place, if kindness can bloom amid cold, stone, and iron. He tells himself that even the smallest act of compassion is a rebellion against the darkness, and so, with hands both gentle and resolute, he carries on, not because he is strong, but because he still remembers the meaning of mercy. Now, as you settle deeper into comfort, feel the softness of the night surrounding you, the quiet rustle of leaves outside your window, the gentle warmth of a glowing hearth nearby, and let your breath find an easy, even rhythm. Our story returns to the dim chambers where shadows linger and time moves slow, where a man named Elias walks a path he never wanted, a path marked by duty, burden, and the flicker of something like hope. The heavy wooden door creaks open again. The damp air inside the dungeon feels thick and still. The woman sits quietly, wrists freshly freed from rough rope, yet still bound by fate. Her eyes meet Elias's. Calm and strong, in that shared glance lies a story neither speaks aloud. The cruel weight of a life imposed by others. The aching longing for something more. Elias moves softly among his tools, each instrument gleaming faintly in the flickering torchlight. There is the Iron Maiden, a terrible cage of spikes designed to punish and break the thumbscrews, designed to twist flesh and bone slowly. The rack, a cruel machine built for stretching the human form beyond its limits. All cold and unyielding, and yet in Elias's hands they feel heavier still, not with purpose. How the sharp scent of wet stone and iron filled his lungs. How the voices of prisoners echoed in his ears like ghosts. How his own hands trembled despite years of practice, and how slowly, piece by piece, something inside him began to harden, a shell built from necessity, built to survive. But beneath that shell remains the man he once was. A man who dreams of sunlit fields, of laughter shared beneath leafy boughs, of warmth that spreads through the chest, not coldness. Tonight, as the wind moans softly outside the castle walls, Elias sits beside the woman, his voice low and steady, like the crackling fire at his side. He speaks not to interrogate, but to connect, to remember what it means to be human, to find a thread of kindness tangled in the dark. She listens quietly, her face shadowed in the torchlight, her lips pressed together in a fragile smile. A moment of peace between them, a pause in the endless cycle of pain outside. The rain begins again, softly at first, then falling steadily against the stone. The smell of wet earth drifts through narrow windows, and the trees bend gently to the breeze. The night hums with life beyond these walls, life full of possibility and light. Elias feels the cold seep from his bones, but also the quiet strength of knowing that even here, in the heart of shadow, a single act of mercy can ripple outward, changing the course of a story. Little by little, he rises then. Moving to extinguish the torch, the room dims to a soft glow. The sounds of the night fill the space, and as Elias steps out into the corridor, he carries with him the flicker of hope. A hope that someday, somehow, this darkness might give way to dawn. Elias steps carefully down the cold, winding corridors, each footfall muted against the worn stone. The silence around him is thick, yet somehow alive filled with memories whispered through centuries of pain endured, of suffering witnessed, of silence broken. The chamber where prisoners wait is dimly lit by a single lantern, its flickering flame casting dancing shadows on rough walls. Inside, a new figure sits quietly on a bench, a man accused of heresy, his gaze steady despite the weight of his fate. Elias approaches slowly, his heart heavy, but his resolve firm. There is a strange intimacy in these moments, a shared understanding between two souls caught. Elias speaks softly, his words barely more than a breath. Tell me your story. He invites, and the prisoner begins to speak, voice low and raw. He tells of a life torn apart by fear, of whispered prayers in hidden corners, of nights spent beneath stars, and of the hope that blooms even in the darkest places. Elias listens, the stories weaving into his own restless thoughts. The cold instruments around him lose some of their menace, replaced in his mind's eye by the gentle touch of a healer's hands, by the light filtering through stained glass windows, by the soft murmur of a choir singing in a distant chapel. Hours pass like this, wrapped in the quiet power of human connection. And though the world outside may judge and condemn, within this small chamber there is something fragile and beautiful, a glimpse of grace in a harsh and unforgiving age. As night deepens, Elias steps outside. Once more the rain has stopped, leaving the air fresh and cool. The ground smells of damp earth and blooming wildflowers. Leaves shimmer with droplets that catch the moonlight like tiny stars. He breathes it in deeply, feeling a moment of peace wash over him. He knows tomorrow will bring more burdens, more trials, more pain to witness and inflict, but for now, there is this moment, quiet, still, and full of possibility. The night holds its breath. The world softens around the edges, and Elias, caught between shadow and light, clings to the hope that one day mercy might be more than a whispered secret, that kindness might not be a crime, and that even the darkest paths can lead to dawn. The days grow shorter, the air colder as autumn creeps quietly over the land. Elias remains a figure trapped between worlds, bound by duty, yet aching for release. Each sunrise brings with it fresh torment and new questions. Yet, in the stillness before dawn, he finds moments to breathe and remember who he truly is beneath the burden in the small chamber. A young boy is brought before Elias, accused of theft. The boy's eyes are wide and trembling. The crowd outside is impatient. Hungry for swift justice, Elias kneels, speaking softly to calm the frightened child, his hands gentle as they prepare the tools of interrogation. Used sparingly, this time the boy's trembling subsides. Replaced by quiet resolve, Elias sees in him a reflection of his own lost innocence. A flicker of compassion grows in the cold stone chamber, a silent vow to protect what little humanity remains. Days pass in a haze of rain and shadow. The prison walls feel like a living thing, their silence pressing. Whispering stories of sorrow and regret, Elias finds small solace in the whispered prayers offered by the priest. The scent of burning incense weaving through the damp air. A reminder that light can exist even in the darkest places. One evening, as the wind moans softly outside, Elias steps onto the battlements. The world stretches before him. Shrouded in mist and quiet, he breathes deeply. The cool air filling his lungs, the distant stars flicker faintly through a veil of clouds, and for a moment, the weight on his shoulders feels less unbearable. He thinks of the people he has met, the faces etched with pain and courage, and he wonders if his own heart can survive this endless cycle. If mercy can thrive in a world ruled by fear. The hearth's glow calls him back inside. He returns to his chamber where the fire crackles softly. Its warmth, a small comfort against the chill of his thoughts, and as sleep beckons, he clings to the hope that dawn will bring a new beginning, a chance for redemption, and a world where kindness is not a crime. The castle's heavy stones seem to hold the weight of countless secrets. Elias moves silently through the corridors, the torches casting long shadows on the walls. His thoughts drift like the flickering flames, unsettled yet searching. The faces he has seen haunt his mind, each story pressing on his heart. Some cries still echo softly, though the prisoners have long since been taken away. Outside the keep, the world shifts with the changing seasons. Leaves turn gold and crimson, falling slowly like whispered regrets. The wind carries a chill that seeps into bones, yet also brings clarity. Elias finds himself drawn to the garden, hidden behind the walls. A small patch of earth where wildflowers stubbornly bloom amid the stones. Here, he allows himself a rare moment of peace. The scent of damp earth and blossoms fills the air. He runs his fingers through soft petals. Fragile and alive, it reminds him that even in the harshest conditions, life insists on continuing, and hope can bloom in unexpected places back inside. The weight of his role presses heavily. Once more, the instruments of his trade lie silent but ever present. The iron, the chains, the cold steel, symbols of pain and control. Yet Elias dreams of transformation, of turning swords into plowshares, of changing fear into understanding. One evening, The Lord summons Elias to the great hall. The room buzzes with tension, heavy with the scent of burning torches and worn leather. The Lord's eyes are sharp, demanding loyalty and results. Elias listens quietly, feeling the gulf widen between duty and conscience. He knows the path laid before him is narrow and perilous. Later that night, Elias returns to his chamber. He sits beside the hearth, watching embers fade to ash. The quiet crackling is a balm to his troubled mind. He pulls from his cloak a small, folded piece of parchment, a letter from a distant friend, words of kindness and hope, written in careful script, a reminder that beyond these walls, a different world exists, one where mercy is not a weakness, but strength. He clutches the letter close as sleep takes him. Dreams of open fields and clear skies fill his rest. The promise of a future where his hands need not inflict pain, where he can walk freely without the shadow of the past, and where kindness reigns supreme. Now, as you settle more deeply into relaxation, let your breath grow slow and even. Feel the gentle, soothing weight of the evening air wrapping around you like a soft blanket. Imagine the gentle murmur of leaves moving in a faint breeze just outside your window. Hear the comforting crackle of a fire burning softly in the hearth nearby. Allow the peaceful sounds and my voice to carry you gently back into the quiet world of Elias, the medieval torturer who longs for more than his dark fate allows inside the cold stone walls of the keep. The day begins with muted light filtering through narrow slits in the thick walls. The air is heavy with the scent of damp stone, smoke, and old wood. Elias rises slowly from the straw mattress where he sleeps, each movement deliberate, careful not to disturb the fragile calm he carries within. The burden of his role presses against his chest like a heavy stone, but he carries it quietly. Resigned, he dresses in simple, dark clothes, worn from years of service, his hands moving methodically. The tools of his trade hang from a belt at his side, each one a silent witness to the suffering that shadows the keep's halls despite the grim nature of his duties. Elias moves with a quiet grace. His eyes reflect a weary kindness, the flicker of a man who has not lost all hope as he steps into the corridor. The distant sounds of the castle waking echo softly. Footsteps of guards, the creak of heavy doors, muffled voices of servants preparing the day's meals outside. The sun begins to climb slowly, sending shafts of pale light across the courtyard. The scent of wet earth and fallen leaves mingles with the faint aroma of burning wood. Elias pauses at a small window set high in the wall. He presses his palm to the cool glass, feeling the chill against his skin. Beyond the walls, a world teems with live children's laughter, the chatter of market vendors, the clatter of hooves on cobblestones, a world full of freedom, of simple joys. So far removed from the darkness he inhabits, he closes his eyes briefly, letting the sounds and smells wash over him in his mind's eye. He pictures the fields stretching wide beneath a blue sky, golden wheat swaying gently in the breeze, birds soaring overhead. He imagines the warmth of sunlight on his face, the soft hum of bees among wildflowers. These visions offer a fragile sanctuary from the cold. Reality of the keep, his thoughts are interrupted by the approach of a young scribe. The boy's face is pale, eyes wide with nervous anticipation. He carries a small wooden box, carefully wrapped in linen. Elias nods to him quietly and gestures to follow into a small chamber adjacent to the main hall inside. The flicker of candlelight reveals shelves lined with scrolls and parchments. The air smells faintly of ink and parchment, a welcome change from the dankness of the dungeons. The scribe sets the box carefully on a worn table and unties the linen. Inside rests a delicate collection of herbs and small vials, filled with strange liquids. Elias's brow furrows as he recognizes some of the ingredients. Herbs said to ease pain, potions whispered to dull fear. The scribe speaks softly. "These are from the apothecary, sir. They say the remedies might ease the suffering, that even a small mercy can change the course of a man's fate." Elias considers this quietly. The tools at his belt suddenly feel heavier, their purpose more bitter. He knows the world demands punishment and pain, but he wonders if kindness can find a place even here. If there might be a way to temper cruelty with compassion, to transform his grim role into something less terrible. As the day unfolds, Elias moves through the keep with care. He visits the prisoners not as a tormentor, but as a man seeking to ease their pain with the scribe's herbs and potions. He offers small relief, a soothing poultice here, a calming draught there. These acts do not go unnoticed. A fragile light in the oppressive gloom, in quiet moments between duties. Elias writes in a small, leather-bound journal. His pen glides slowly across the page as he records his thoughts and fears. The words offer a silent witness to his struggle, a testament to the man beneath the armor of duty outside the castle. The day fades into dusk. The sky blushes soft pink and gold. A cool breeze stirs the leaves, carrying the distant song of night birds. Elias stands once more at the high window. Watching the stars begin to emerge, he whispers a prayer for mercy for himself, for those he must serve, and for the possibility of a better world. As the hearth's glow calls him back into the quiet chamber, he feels the weight shift slightly, not gone, but lighter, carried with a new resolve. And a hope that even in the darkest places, a single act of kindness can spark a flame that might one day grow into a blazing dawn. Elias's days blur together in the rhythm of his somber duties. The keep is a labyrinth of stone and shadow, a place where hope seems like a distant memory yet, within the cold walls. Small moments of humanity cling stubbornly. The scribes, herbs, and quiet acts of mercy have sown a fragile seed, one that Elias tends with careful hands and a weary heart. Each morning, the same cold stone greets him beneath his feet. The scent of damp moss and burning wood fills the air. He moves through the dim halls with quiet purpose. A solitary figure bound by chains, he cannot see the prisoners. Eyes meet his with something like trust, a fragile bridge formed in the depths of despair one day. A new prisoner arrives, a woman accused of witchcraft. Her presence stirs a mix of fear and fascination throughout the keep. Elias approaches her cell with measured steps. The woman meets his gaze. Unflinching, her eyes hold a fierce spark, a defiance that neither the cold nor the chains can dim their conversations. She speaks of herbs and healing, of old wisdom passed down through secret voices. Elias listens. Fascinated by her knowledge, she teaches him to see beyond the tools of pain, to imagine a world where healing replaces punishment together. The crackling fire, a small comfort against the chill of stone outside. The wind whispers through the trees, carrying secrets of distant forests and hidden springs. In these moments, Elias feels a fragile warmth, a reminder that even the darkest night gives way to dawn. The woman's presence changes something within him, a quiet rebellion against the harshness demanded by the lords. He begins to question the roles they play, the masks they wear to survive. But the path is perilous. The keep watches with cold eyes, whispers ripple through the halls. Suspicion, like a gathering storm, Elias knows that mercy is a dangerous gift, one that could cost him everything yet. He cannot turn away. His hands tremble as they hold the instruments of his trade. But his heart beats steadily with a growing resolve to protect those who suffer, to ease their pain where he can, to imagine a day when kindness is not a crime, but a light to guide the lost night deepens around the castle stars, glitter faintly through the mist. Elias stands by the window, the woman's whispered wisdom echoing in his mind. He breathes in the cool air, tasting the possibility of change, and lets himself dream, just for a moment, of a world reborn in light and compassion. Days turn into weeks, and Elias's burden grows heavier still. The keep's cold walls echo with footsteps and whispered fears. Yet within the gloom, he finds moments that shimmer like scattered stars. The woman's presence is a beacon, her quiet strength a balm to his weary soul. They share stolen conversations in shadowed corners, her words painting pictures of healing herbs, whispered incantations, and forgotten remedies. She teaches Elias to look beyond the instruments of pain, to glimpse a world where compassion might still survive each night. Beneath the soft glow of candlelight, Elias writes feverishly. In his journal, the ink flows like a lifeline, capturing his doubts, his hopes, and his deepest fears. The words are a secret rebellion against the harshness that surrounds him, a silent prayer for mercy and change. One evening, a messenger arrives with urgent news. The Lord demands harsher punishments to quell growing unrest in the villages. Elias feels a cold dread settle in his chest. The delicate balance he has nurtured teeters on the edge. He knows the coming days will test the limits of his resolve. Despite the looming threat, Elias continues his quiet acts of kindness. He tends wounds with gentle hands, offers soothing draughts, and listens to the stories of those broken by fate. Each small mercy is a spark against the darkness, a fragile hope that refuses to be extinguished. The woman's teachings linger in his mind like a soft melody. He begins to experiment with the herbs, learning their secrets. The scent of lavender, the bitter tang of wormwood, the sweet warmth of chamomile. These simple gifts from the earth become weapons of a different kind, tools to heal rather than harm. The fire in the hearth burns brighter, its steady glow a comforting presence in the cold stone chamber. Elias finds solace in the rhythm of tending the flames, watching the sparks rise and vanish into the dark. A reminder that even fleeting light can pierce the deepest shadow outside. The wind carries the scent of rain and distant forests. Leaves rustle softly against the window pane. The world beyond the keep pulses with life, hope, and change. And Elias, caught between duty and conscience, clings to the fragile promise of dawn. He knows the road ahead is fraught with peril. The keep's walls hold secrets darker than the night. But in the quiet spaces between pain and fear, there exists a fragile truth that even those trapped in shadow can find a way toward light. The days pass slowly in the heavy silence of the keep. Elias moves with a quiet purpose that belies the turmoil within. Each footstep echoes softly against the stone floor, a reminder of the weight he carries, the unseen chains that bind him. Yet, beneath his measured exterior lies a heart yearning for release. The woman's presence remains a steady light in the darkness. Her knowledge of herbs and healing seeps into Elias's thoughts like morning dew. They share secret moments in the garden, hidden behind the walls, where wildflowers bloom stubbornly amid the stones. The scent of earth and petals fills the air. A reminder of life's persistence, Elias tends the small patch of green with gentle hands, pulling weeds, turning soil, and nurturing the fragile plants. The act of caring becomes a meditation, a balm for his weary spirit. The soft hum of bees and the distant song of birds weave a peaceful tapestry, contrasting sharply with the harshness of the keep's interior. One afternoon, a prisoner is brought to Elias's chamber, a man accused of betrayal. His eyes are hollow, shadowed by fear and despair. Elias approaches with cautious kindness, offering a small vial of herbal tea. The prisoner drinks slowly, the warmth spreading through his body for a moment. The cold stone walls seem less suffocating. Elias listens as the man speaks in a low, trembling voice, stories of lost families, broken dreams, and unjust fate. The weight of suffering presses heavily on both men. Yet, in this shared moment of vulnerability, a fragile connection forms as evening falls. The great hall fills with the murmurs of the court. The Lord demands swift justice. His voice sharp and unyielding, Elias feels the familiar tension coil within him. The gulf between duty and conscience widens, once more retreating to his chamber. Elias finds solace by the hearth. The fire's glow flickers softly, casting dancing shadows. He unwraps a worn parchment, the edges frayed with use, a letter from the woman, filled with words of encouragement and hope. Her belief in mercy strengthens his resolve. Night deepens. The stars twinkle faintly through the mist. Elias closes his eyes, the flickering firelight painting patterns behind his lids. He breathes deeply, drawing strength from the quiet moments of peace, and dreams of a world where kindness is not punished, where the chains of fear and pain are broken, and where light finally conquers the darkness. The castle walls hold countless secrets, their stones worn smooth by centuries of sorrow and silence. Elias moves through the corridors with a quiet purpose, his footsteps barely a whisper against the cold floors. Each day blends into the next, a slow procession of duties heavy with meaning and regret. Yet, beneath the weight of his grim role, a flicker of hope stubbornly endures. He finds solace in the smallest things, the soft bloom of a wildflower in the garden, the faint scent of herbs drying in his chamber. These fragments of life and beauty offer a refuge from the harsh realities that surround him. The woman's teachings echo in his mind, a melody of healing and compassion together. They envision a different world, one where mercy reigns over cruelty. One chilly morning, the courtyard is alive with activity as villagers bring offerings to the Lord. Elias watches from a shadowed window. The warmth of the sun contrasting with the chill in his bones. He imagines the lives beyond the castle. Children playing, markets bustling, laughter ringing through the streets. A world so distant from the cold stone and iron chains of his reality. Inside the keep, Elias prepares for another day of grim duties. Yet today feels different. Charged with an unspoken tension, the Lord has summoned him to the great hall. His expression grim and commanding, Elias steels himself, knowing that the days ahead will test the limits of his resolve and courage. The hall is filled with the murmur of courtiers and guards, their faces masked with expectation and fear. The Lord's voice cuts through the silence, demanding loyalty and results. Elias listens quietly. The cold gaze of authority pressing down like a suffocating shroud, yet beneath the weight of command. Elias's heart beats with quiet defiance. Later, in the solitude of his chamber, Elias tends to the herbs and potions that offer small mercies. He prepares salves and tinctures, each one a silent act of rebellion against the cruelty that defines his role. The fire crackles softly, its warmth a comfort against the chill of stone walls. He writes in his journal by candlelight, the ink flowing like a lifeline, connecting him to a better future. Outside, the night deepens, stars shimmering faintly through the mist. The wind carries the scent of pine and earth, a reminder of the natural world beyond the keep. Elias breathes deeply, letting the cool air fill his lungs and steady his spirit. He dreams of freedom, of light breaking through the darkness, and of a day when his hands can heal rather than harm. The cold stone corridors of the keep echo faintly with footsteps and murmured prayers. Elias moves with a steady rhythm, his mind caught between the weight of his role and the fragile hope he nurtures. The woman's presence lingers in his thoughts, her words a soothing balm amid the harshness of his duties together. They weave a delicate tapestry of compassion within the unforgiving walls. In the quiet moments before dawn, Elias tends to the prisoners with a gentle touch. He administers the herbal remedies with care. Soft words of reassurance accompanying each gesture. The prisoners, once hardened by fear and pain, begin to show signs of relief and gratitude. Their eyes, once filled with despair, now hold glimmers of trust and fragile hope. The Lord's demands grow harsher with each passing day. Whispers of rebellion stir in the villages, and the Lord's patience wears thin. Elias feels the pressure tighten around him like a noose. Yet he refuses to let the darkness consume his spirit. One evening, beneath a sky heavy with stars, Elias and the woman meet in the hidden garden. The scent of night-blooming flowers fills the air, mingling with the crisp scent of pine and earth. They speak softly of dreams and possibilities, of a world where mercy and justice walk hand in hand. Her hands brush lightly over the delicate petals, a symbol of resilience and beauty amid adversity. Elias listens, heart swelling with a quiet determination. He vows to protect the flickering light of kindness, wherever it may shine, to shield the innocent from suffering, to offer comfort in the darkest hours, to hold fast to hope, even when the shadows threaten to overwhelm. The fire in his chamber burns low. Casting long shadows on the walls, he curls beside it, letting the warmth seep into his bones. His eyes close, and the world fades into a soft, peaceful darkness. Dreams of freedom, light, and healing wash over him like a gentle tide outside. The wind carries the whispered lullabies of the night. The rustling leaves sing a soothing melody, a promise of rest and renewal. Elias's breath deepens and slows, his heart steady with the quiet strength he has found. In the stillness, the flicker of hope grows brighter, ready to kindle a new dawn. The days in the keep pass with a steady, somber rhythm. Elias moves through the cold stone halls with purpose and quiet resolve. Each moment is a careful balance between duty and conscience, between pain and mercy. The woman's teachings have taken root deep within him, guiding his hands and heart together. They have planted seeds of hope in a place where darkness often prevails. The prisoners begin to look to Elias, not just with fear, but with something like trust. His gentle ministrations bring small relief amid their suffering. He offers them not only herbs and salves, but a listening ear and a compassionate presence. In these brief exchanges, the harsh walls of the keep seem less suffocating. The flicker of human kindness becomes a fragile light in the gloom. Yet, the Lord's demands grow ever more brutal. The threat of violence hangs heavy over the castle. Elias feels the tightening grip of fear and obligation, but within him, the flame of hope burns steadily, high and ripple outward, changing hearts and minds one cool evening. As twilight deepens into night, Elias and the woman meet once again in their secret garden. The air is thick with the scent of earth and blooming flowers. They speak softly, their voices barely more than a whisper of dreams where mercy replaces cruelty and healing triumphs over pain. The woman's eyes shine with fierce determination. Her hands gently cradle a delicate blossom. She speaks of a future where those like Elias are no longer bound by chains of duty and despair, where their hands are free to heal and nurture rather than harm and punish, Elias listens. His heart swelling with quiet courage, he knows the path ahead is perilous, fraught with danger and sacrifice. But he also knows that hope is a powerful force, one that can endure even in the darkest of places. The fire in Elias's chamber burns low, its warmth a soft comfort against the chill of night. He curls beside it, letting the glow soothe his weary bones. His thoughts drift to the prisoners, to the woman, to the fragile light they share, and as sleep gently pulls him under, he dreams of a world reborn in kindness and light outside. The wind carries the gentle rustle of leaves, a lullaby for the restless night. The stars shimmer faintly through the mist, silent witnesses to his quiet resolve. Elias's breath deepens, slow and steady, as peace settles over him like a soft blanket, and the story of a tortured man's hope continues to unfold in the stillness of the night. The days grow shorter, the nights colder, and the keep seems heavier with each passing moment. Elias's footsteps echo faintly through the stone corridors, his heart weighed down but unbroken. The woman's presence remains a quiet light, her knowledge and kindness a balm amid the harshness. Together they nurture fragile shoots of hope in a place where despair often takes root. The prisoners look to Elias with growing trust, their eyes reflecting the small mercies he offers. He tends wounds and shares whispered stories, weaving moments of comfort into their suffering. Each act of kindness is a rebellion against the cruelty that defines the keep, a silent promise that even in darkness, humanity can endure. The Lord's anger grows with the unrest in the villages, his commands harsher than ever. Elias feels the cold grip of duty tighten around his soul. Yet it clings to the woman's teachings, the dream of a world where mercy prevails, healing salves and herbs in secret, offering relief where he can. The fire's glow in his chamber is a warm refuge against the cold stone walls. One night, under a sky heavy with stars, Elias and the woman meet once more. The garden is alive with a scent of night flowers, their petals soft and luminous. In the moonlight, they speak in hushed tones, sharing hopes and fears. Her hands brush gently over the delicate blooms, a symbol of resilience and beauty. She speaks of a time when the keep's walls will no longer hold fear and pain, when those like Elias will be free to heal without fear of reprisal. Her voice is steady, filled with quiet strength and unwavering hope. Elias feels a deep resolve settle within him. He knows the road ahead is perilous, but believes in the power of compassion. The fire crackles softly in his chamber as Elias prepares for the coming days. He writes in his journal, capturing the fragile light of hope that guides him outside. The wind carries the soft rustle of leaves, a lullaby for the restless night stars twinkle faintly through the mist. Silent witnesses to a story of courage and mercy, Elias's breath slows deep and even as peace gently envelops him. And the tale of a man caught between darkness and light continues to unfold quietly in the night. The dawn creeps slowly over the horizon, casting a pale light through the narrow windows of the keep. Elias rises with a heart heavy, but unyielding. The weight of his role presses on him. Yet within, a steadfast flame of hope refuses to dim. The woman's words echo softly in his mind, a promise of mercy and renewal. Today, the keep feels different, charged with a fragile sense of possibility. Elias moves with deliberate care, tending to his duties with a gentleness that belies their harshness. Each prisoner he sees is met with a quiet compassion, a small act of defiance against the cruelty that surrounds them. The walls may be cold and unyielding, but within their shadows a new light begins to flicker. In the secret garden, the wildflowers bloom brighter than ever, their colors vivid against the stone. The woman waits for Elias, her eyes shining with quiet hope and determination. They speak softly of dreams yet to be realized, of a future where kindness is not a crime. Her hands reach out to touch the petals, and Elias feels the resilience of life itself. The Lord's orders grow more desperate, his fear of rebellion tightening like chains, but Elias stands firm, guided by the belief that even in the darkest places, change is possible. He prepares a final entry in his journal, a testament to the power of mercy and the courage to choose it. The fire burns low, casting flickering shadows that dance like ghosts on the walls. Night falls gently, wrapping the keep in a blanket of quiet and peace. Elias closes his eyes, his breath deep and even. The whisper of leaves and the crackling fire lull him toward rest. He dreams not of chains or shadows, but of a world reborn in light and compassion, where hands once forced to harm are free to heal, and where hope, fragile yet fierce, blossoms eternal. As your breath softens and your body melts into comfort, remember Elias's story, a tale of struggle, of quiet courage, and of the unwavering light within us all. Let this peace settle deep inside you, carrying you gently into a restful, healing sleep. Good night, dear.